Okay, this is an example of reflecting over the y-axis. I'm just going to pick 2 points that are one apart so that I can show this exponential function here. You can write an exponential function between any values that are one x value away, which is kind of nice. On this activity, you could do all exponential functions, and then you would only lose 1 point per exponential function, and you would gain a lot of points for all of the icons that you pass through. You just need to be careful about when you're hitting more than one extra point. So if you're just going between 2 points that are one x value apart, we can write the exponential function no matter what. Okay, so let's show our parent function which is going to have a starting point at 0, 1, and it's going to shoot up to the right after that 0, 1. The left-hand side gets closer and closer to the x value, but we're really worried about the starting point and another point that we're going to plot. So as you can see, this has reflected, but we also want to talk about the translation here. Do I translate first to the left and then reflect? Well, no, because if I translate to the left and then reflect over the y, my starting point is going to end up on the right-hand side. So instead, we are going to translate to the right and get the opposite value so that when we reflect our point, it reflects to the left-hand side. So my goal is to get right here, which is easy because my parent point is at 0, 1, so all I'm doing is going to the right by 1. If I go to the right 1, I can plot basically this function here and reflect it to the other side to get these points here. Okay, and we're going to show how to do that right now. So first of all, let's talk about our translation. We decided to go to the right, so then that way when I reflect, my starting point can land where it's supposed to land. So going to the right, I need to shift right by 1, which means I subtract 1 from my x value. I don't need to shift up or down, so I don't need to add anything to the end there. But I do need to figure out my b value, and I need to make a reflection over the y-axis. We have to do all of our translations and reflections before we figure out our b value. So here's where my function is right now by translating to the right 1. If I want to go from 1, 0 to negative 1, 0, that's an opposite x value. If I wanted to go down, then that would have been an opposite, 1. Sorry, this should be 1, 1 and negative 1, 1. Then that would have been an opposite y value to go down 1. Okay, but we don't want to go down, we want to go to the left. So we're going to take an opposite x value, which means I put a negative in front of my x. And that reflects this to the other side. Perfect. Now I can find my b value, but I have to use the equation that is actually represented after I translate and reflect. So this part of my function is what I'm using. I can't use the starting point. My starting point reflected already and translated. I have to use this other point. So I'm going to plug in that point right there, which is negative 2, 3. So you'll see what's happening to the y value here is we're going to take the opposite or sorry, the x value, and we get b to the positive 2 minus 1, which is just b, which makes my b value equal to 3. I can plug that in for my equation, and I get 3 to the negative x minus 1. And that is my equation for an exponential function that has been reflected over the y-axis. So please make sure you translate and then reflect.